When we think of Buddhism, we often picture a path of peace. We imagine monks in saffron robes meditating in quiet temples. We think of teachings that tell us to avoid harming any living thing. The core ideas of compassion, mindfulness, and non-violence have spread across the world. They offer a sense of calm in our often chaotic lives. This image of tranquility is powerful, and for many it is the entire story of this ancient faith. It's a religion we associate with inner peace and a gentle approach to the world, a philosophy that seeks to end suffering, not create it. This perception is so strong that it can be difficult to see Buddhism in any other way. This is why it can be so surprising, even shocking, to see headlines about Buddhist monks supporting or even leading acts of violence. In recent years, news from countries like Myanmar and Sri Lanka has shown us a different side. We see monks delivering fiery speeches not about peace but about nationalism and fear. They sometimes encourage their followers to turn against minority groups. This seems to go against everything we believe Buddhism stands for. How can a religion built on the principle of ahimsa, or non-harm, be used to justify hurting others? This is a difficult question, and it forces us to look beyond our simple ideas about any faith. The truth is, this is not just a modern problem. History shows us that Buddhism, like many other major religions, has a complex and sometimes violent past. In feudal Japan, there were groups of warrior monks, known as the Sohei, who were skilled in combat. They defended their monasteries and fought in major conflicts. Centuries ago in China, some Buddhist soldiers were told that killing the enemies of the faith could be a path to enlightenment. Even in the 20th century, some interpretations of Zen Buddhism were used to support Japanese militarism during World War II. These examples show us that the peaceful image is not the only story. These instances of violence force us to confront a deep paradox. They challenge our understanding of faith and human nature. The peaceful teachings of the Buddha are real, and they inspire millions of people to live with kindness and compassion. But the existence of violence carried out in the name of Buddhism is also a reality we cannot ignore. It suggests that no religion is immune to being used for political power, or to justify conflict. The gap between the peaceful ideal and the violent reality is where we find a more complicated and more human story about how faith works in our world. So, what explains this disturbing contradiction? How does a religion of peace become associated with violence? A big part of the answer lies in the close relationship that can form between religious leaders and political rulers. In many Buddhist majority countries, there is a long history of the temple and the state working together. Governments often look to Buddhism to give their rule legitimacy. They promote the religion, build temples, and support monks. This makes them look like protectors of the national culture and faith, which can make them more popular with the people. It's a powerful political tool. In return for this government support, religious leaders often pledge their loyalty to the state. They might encourage their followers to support the ruling party or its policies. Monks can become powerful figures who help maintain social order, reinforcing the government's authority. This creates a kind of bargain where both sides benefit. The government gets the moral backing of the religious establishment, and the religious establishment gets protection and influence from the government. This mutually beneficial relationship can make the temple an extension of state power, and it can draw religious figures into the messy world of politics where ideals are often compromised. This alliance becomes dangerous when it is used to define who belongs in a nation and who does not. When a government strongly favors one religion, it sends a clear message that other faiths are less important or even a threat. This is a concept called religious favoritism. Political leaders might use this to unite the majority against a common enemy, often a minority group. By claiming to protect the purity of the dominant religion, they can weaponize religious identity to exclude others. This turns faith from a source of personal comfort into a tool for political division and control. This is a powerful combination that can lead to great harm. When political and religious leaders work together to promote a single faith as the heart of the nation's identity, they can create deep divisions in society. They might portray minority groups such as Muslims or Christians as outsiders who threaten the country's culture and security. This kind of rhetoric can make members of the majority feel that they have permission to act on their prejudices. It can radicalize people who believe they are defending their faith, leading them down a path from religious devotion to violent extremism against their neighbors. We can see the tragic results of this dynamic in several countries today. most notably in Myanmar. For decades, the government there has promoted a form of Buddhist nationalism. This has been used to justify the brutal persecution of the Rohingya Muslim minority. Radical monks like Ashin Wirathu have delivered sermons filled with hate speech, calling the Rohingya outsiders and encouraging violence against them. The state, in turn, has either supported these views or done little to stop the violence that followed. This has led to what many international observers have called an ethnic cleansing campaign, a terrible tragedy fueled by this toxic mix of religion and politics. A similar story has unfolded in Sri Lanka. The country has a long history of tension between the Sinhalese Buddhist majority and the Tamil minority, who are mostly Hindu. After the long civil war ended, a new form of Buddhist nationalism began to rise. Hardline Buddhist groups like Bodubala Sena or BBS emerged. They claimed that Buddhism was under threat from Muslims and other minorities. These groups have been accused of inciting riots and attacks against Muslim communities and their businesses. Their leaders have close ties to powerful politicians, showing again how political goals can become entangled with religious identity to create conflict and suffering. These are not isolated incidents. We have seen similar tensions in other parts of Asia. In Thailand, for example, the state has long promoted a specific vision of Thainess that is closely linked to Buddhism and the monarchy. This has played a role in the long-running conflict in the southern part of the country, where the local population is predominantly Malay Muslim. The government's approach has often deepened the sense of alienation among the minority, making a peaceful solution harder to find. These examples from across the region paint a clear picture of how dangerous it is when a state ties its identity to a single religion. What these cases show us is that the violence is not necessarily born from Buddhist teachings themselves. Instead, it comes from how those teachings are twisted and used by political and religious actors for their own gain. When a government officially favors one religion, it creates an environment where prejudice can grow and violence can seem justified. It gives a green light to extremist voices who claim to be protecting their faith, when in reality they are tearing their society apart. The suffering of minorities in Myanmar, Sri Lanka, and elsewhere is a sad reminder of this predictable and destructive pattern. The lesson from these stories is clear and important. Policies of religious favoritism are ultimately self-defeating. Governments may think that by promoting a single dominant religion, they are creating stability and national unity, but the evidence shows that this approach often does the exact opposite. It creates deeper divisions, encourages extremism, and can lead to the very instability and violence it was meant to prevent. When a state puts its thumb on the scale in favor of one faith, it tells everyone else that they are not equal citizens. This sense of injustice and exclusion is a fertile ground for conflict. The path to a more peaceful society lies in the opposite direction. Instead of favoring one religion, states would be wise to embrace religious equality. This means creating a society where the government does not promote or repress any particular faith. It means protecting the freedom of every individual to believe or not believe as they choose. In such an environment, no single religious group can claim special status or use the power of the state to impose its views on others. This creates a more level playing field, where ideas can be debated openly and peacefully. This principle of separation between religious institutions and the state is a cornerstone of many stable, pluralistic societies. It helps ensure that religious identity is a matter of personal conscience, not a tool for political mobilization. When all religions are treated with equal respect under the law, it makes it much harder for extremists to claim that their faith is under attack and needs to be defended with violence. It encourages religious communities to find common ground and work together for the good of all, rather than competing for political favor. It builds a foundation of mutual respect. Ultimately, faith can be a powerful force for good in the world. The Buddhist ideals of peace, compassion, and mindfulness have inspired countless people to live better lives. But as we have seen, any religion can be twisted to serve agendas of power and division. The challenge is to create societies where the best aspects of our faiths can flourish. By rejecting religious favoritism and committing to equality and freedom for all beliefs, we can help prevent faith from being used as a weapon. We can build nations where people of all backgrounds can live together in peace, security, and mutual respect.